to another Sunday morning conversation, everybody. Today, my guest is Aaron Kolk. He is a pro triathlete, a race director with Setup Events for White Lake Pro-Am, and he is a coach at No Limits. He recently, one of the race directors for White Lake, when they put out the athlete guide, they put him on the spot for a sub-4 half Ironman, and he did it. So thanks everybody for tuning in. I hope you enjoy. Hey man, how's it going?
Pretty good. How are you?
Another day in the life. I'm gonna get out and ride here after this. So,
Yep. Same here. Let me I was hoping this lighting was gonna be good sitting here, but looks like it's not.
Turn your hat backwards.
Turn my hat backwards?
Yeah. Better.
Well, no, so I'm sitting right under a light, and I
Ah,
was hoping it was gonna shine from behind me versus from in front of me. I think I can go sit over here. I'm at a Airbnb in Boulder right now.
are you doing a training camp?
Well, so I kind of Varlo had their like team camp here, the apparel company I work with, and then they see and they had it this weekend.
Uh-huh.
And then I originally was going to do Ironman Brazil, but
Wow, that's
and then
hike.
my last like 4 or 5 days, or that's still acting weird, isn't it? Wonder if it's just my computer. Yeah, that's a little better, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that should work. Cool. Yeah. So I was gonna stay and do my last like 4 or so days of training block here, and then do a little 10-day taper, but flights were like over $2,000 to get there, and so I was like, maybe not. So I'm gonna do Saturday.
Is a flight to Brazil, is that considered tax deductible for you? Is that a business
Oh
expense?
yeah. Well, yeah. Anything I do triathlon wise is tax deductible, but it's still you got to have $2,000 to throw
Right.
down.
Yeah, you gotta.
Just because it's tax write off doesn't mean it's paying you.
And when you got a couple of kids, $2,000 to come up with is not an easy feat sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, how much was your fee? Your flight out to Denver?
Well, that was luckily covered by Varlo.
Oh, okay, that's nice.
Yep.
So we were at the same race. By the way, I sent you a message on Facebook. Do you know what Relive is?
Relive. Yeah. I do.
I used it for the race, so you have the entire course done.
Cool. Yeah, we don't we don't normally throw a ton of what's it called, just because it's so flat.
Yeah. I don't care. I just figured you might want it,
it.
you might not. Who knows? But I sent it to you.
Yeah. I saw that earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're at the same race, and you went sub-4, and after you got called out for it. How's that feel?
Pretty good. I didn't really expect Tom to be calling me out like that, but it's good every now and then to
What are
put
friends
pressure
for?
on yourself, I guess. Exactly.
So, I mean, I've looked up all your times. You've had a steady progression into your pro life. You've only been doing this a couple of years. You know, how does that feel? And what's the goal going forward?
Yeah, the goal going forward is really to just kind of see how good I can get, see what can happen, and just see what my body can take, and just it's kind of like what you said, the progression. It's going to be a bunch of small jumps until someone feels like it's a big jump. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how been my whole triathlon career has been. I started out in 2017 kind of on a whim. I jumped into 70.3 Raleigh 2 weeks before the race. I signed up for it without really swimming ever before. And then just as my life has developed and, changed over the few, past 5 or so years, I've been able to spend a little bit more time in the pool. And now that that's developing, hopefully, I'll be able to start biking in some packs and then come off the bike a little bit fresher, instead of trying to just hammer down, and then be able to actually use the run ability that I have.
what's it like having your own race to run? I mean, and then competing in it. How does I imagine that's got to be, you have to prepare everything and then hope everything goes according to plan because while that's going on, you're in the middle of the race. What is that like? Do you kind of hand off to
Well,
your other two guys?
yeah, well, so this year, kind of my responsibilities for the race were a lot different. So I guess to go back into the White Lake race, the history of it, it was Bill Scott started the race 26 years ago. And it's been a setup events race for a long, long time. And then in 2020, when everything was getting canceled, 70.3 North Carolina was actually canceled. Without Limits, the coaching company I work with, we had a lot of clients that ended up not being able to race that event because it got canceled. And so I was like, I'm fit, I'd like to do a little bit of a race. And so we were able to put together a 50-person race in 2020 in October. And then, I just kind of invited a couple of my friends that were professionals. And technically that was my professional debut, was October 2020. And then after that, we kind of started to partner with Bill for the White Lake race Without Limits. Last year, I was working for setup events as well as Without Limits, but just kind of as my life was getting a little too busy, so I had to back off the race directing thing. So for this year, I was just more of like the professional athlete coordinator, you could call it.
Oh, so I mean, you had a pretty decent pro field there. Considering the size of your event, and I mean, the winning time was what, 3:38. That's pretty fast.
Yeah, yeah. Trevor definitely kicked it up, and a lot of people probably don't know his name yet, but they will soon. He just got sixth in Ironman Texas 2 weeks before our race too.
I'll be blunt. I didn't know his name. I knew your name. I knew Deals. I knew, was it Dubrick is there and Starkey, but I didn't know his name.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he's a young guy. He's only 22 years old. I think he was a sub-14 5K runner for University of Florida a couple years ago. So he's got a huge run background and, definitely some ability on the bike.
Well, I mean, the run background is where you'll get Starkey. So tell me more about your pro career. Like, what's your schedule like this year? So, you're not doing Brazil. What are you going to do? It's beginning of the year. What are you going to fill it out with?
Yeah, so I'm going to do 70.3 Chattanooga this coming weekend. That course is really, it's an ideal course for me.
Have you ever raced
downriver? I did the full there last year. So that's actually my best Ironman branded race finish. I got 13th last year.
I'll give you a free tip since the 70.3 bike course is different than the full.
Mm-hmm.
At mile 26, it is a hard left and straight uphill. It's the hardest climb on it, but you'll see age groupers, the slower ones, end up having to walk it. And it's just that you lose so much momentum having to slow down to make that hard left.
Yeah, well, yeah. So actually, last year when I was doing my prep ride for the full, we ended up riding that loop, the 70.3 loop, just because we didn't want to go quite as long.
Yeah. Okay. Good. You know about it. I love to tell people about it so they don't get a surprise.
Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of my ideal course where, downriver swim, rolling bike course, and then hot hilly run. That's the kind of stuff I like.
Well, it's not as hilly as you think. It's like there's a lot of flat to it. And there's only really 3 good hills to it. But so I mean, what do you anticipate coming out of that race?
Once again, I just kind of want to keep taking another little chip out of the next thing. I'm not really putting, time goals or something like that on myself. I'm going to, get in there with the down current swim. Hopefully I'm going to be able to get out of a pack. White Lake last year was actually my first pro race where I wasn't last out of the water. So that, the hard work in the pool is finally starting to pay off. And, so I'm hoping to get out and then, be able to bike in a group. Hopefully, get a good solid group and be able to use that to, get off and run well.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not really a PR course, especially since the swim is an extra 0.2 of a mile long.
You say that, but when you look at it with the downriver swim, so for me, like I came out of the water just under 30 minutes last weekend, and this weekend, I'm guessing it's probably going to be more in the 25-minute range. So just having a 5-minute bank, is a pretty beneficial thing.
You'd think so, but that's about an extra 300 yards. So it's not exactly what you think if you haven't done the new version of it.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, I mean, we'll see how it goes. Like I said, like I'm a lot less focused on time and more focused on, being in the present and trying to get the most out of myself on the given day.
yeah. So what else you got on tap after that?
So I'm gonna kind of go into a lot of fulls in the second half of the year. I'm gonna do Ironman Lake Placid, and then I think it's 4 or 5 weeks after that do Ironman Mont Blanc, and then I'm trying to find another race in between Mont Blanc, and I'm gonna cap my season off with Patagon Man, which is a extreme
I know
tri
all about
in
it.
Patagonia.
I want to do that race. It looks so fucking awesome.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's kind of like the bucket list race type stuff for me. And I've already decided, like, when I finish my professional career of triathlon, I'm just gonna go do crazy wild stuff, kind of like that, or go run 100-mile trail race, or random stuff.
I've talked to the race director of that because I was so interested in it. I wanted to interview him, and
Mhm.
first of all, there's a good chance that you could, break the tape on that race, unless there's like one of those elite pros like Tim Don who decided to do it. There's a good chance that you could win that race. And what is your preparation going to be for that? Because you live in Wilmington. That's not exactly the kind of territory that is advantageous for outside work to train for one.
Yeah. Well, yes and no. So it's kind of knowing that it's super, super windy in Chile. It's very, very windy living right on the coast in Wilmington. So I can at least get used to the wind, get used to those sensations. Obviously, there's not nearly as much undulation. I think what is it, 10, 12,000 feet of gain on that 112-mile bike course. But I do get to spend a decent amount of time in Western North Carolina. So that's a really, really cool thing. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Firstborn. They actually were part of the primary, or one of the primary sponsors for White Lake last weekend. They have what they call training farm at the base of Mount Mitchell. So I spent some time there. I was able to go up there twice last year. Mount Mitchell, for everyone that doesn't know, is the highest peak east of the Mississippi. Gets up to 66,000 feet. But the base where Firstborn is, I think they're around 2,400 feet. So you get over 4,000 feet of climbing in less than 30 miles.
Yeah, and there's the race, the Assault on Mount Mitchell, if people haven't heard of it before. So that's good. I mean, that's good work. I figured you had to at least go out into the mountains on the weekends or something. I assume that's kind of hard to do because you got a couple of kids too.
Yeah, well, yeah. So I mean, it's lucky enough to where. So I actually lived in Asheville for a few years, in my mid-20s, and so I still keep up with some people around there. So I've done, done some trips where I'll go hang out at some friend's house and we get babysitters for the first half of the day with the kids. And then while I'm training, and then the second half we have, fun family time and go out apple picking, or, go play, find a lake or something like that to play in.
Oh, that sounds like a good deal.
Yep.
So what is a good way that you're going to acclimate to the cold water? Because it's about, what is it, like around 50, 55 degrees? Because
I think 52 to 53, I think, is what they said is the standard temperature. And actually the channel in Wilmington in November gets down to about that. So
yeah, I did Beach the Battleship one year, and that's awesome, that channel.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, so maybe not in November. I do remember, so I had signed up for that race in 2018. I wasn't able to go because my second child was born a month before. But I had done a couple channel swims when it was in the low 50s, and really for me, I guess, like, I'll let my beard grow out a little bit, keep my face a little warmer, but just putting a double cap was good enough for me in the wetsuit.
And how do you feel about jumping off the back of a boat like that? I think it would be awesome.
Yeah. Oh, same way. I love that kind of stuff.
And the swim is in the dark, and I don't know. Well, I would have difficulty with that because I had a TBI and I have a lot of vision damage. And you would probably be a lot better off than I would. But I've never swam in the dark before like that. What do you feel like that? I thought, with the cold water and in the dark, it would just feel like creepy, ominous. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I really think it just adds to the challenge. Just one of those things to where, everyone else is dealing with it. So just kind of do it the best you can. I probably won't do any dark water swimming solo in prep for it just because, that can be kind of dangerous. But, I think it'll be okay.
I imagine it's going to feel like what if Cleveland Browns won the Super Bowl? That same feeling, like that kind of hell is fro over, but it's dark, it's cold, it's a pit, the mistake on the lake, definitely the same feeling. So why do you want to do that race? What made you, first of all, how did you find it? Because I found it through a friend who does X tries, but how did you come across it and what motivated you to pick it?
So believe it or not, the race director for that event lives half of his time in Wilmington and half of his time in Chile. So, I kind of, well, actually, that's not, I found that out actually later, but what was it? I think I just kind of saw it pop up on Instagram or something like that. Something random, that where they had like a little advertisement. It was like the first year of the race was going to happen. And I had only been in triathlon for maybe 6 months when I, jumped into the lottery, but, whatever reason got picked that year and, it would have been fun to do.
Are you going to go down alone? Or are you going to bring anybody else with you or any other pros coming?
Well, in terms of pros, I'm not 100% sure. I'll probably end up, going with someone that you actually in that race, you have to have a Sherpa that is in there with T1 with you that gives you your aid on the bike course. And then they're able to run the last, I think it's 10K with you. If you want to, they can't be a mule for you, but they can, kind of run with you and give you support as you go through. So still in the works for that.
Okay. Yeah. What I found was the problem that held me up from doing an X try is finding someone to come with me that is willing to use their vacation time on me, because I don't have, a spouse anymore that would be willing to do it because she was a runner. And it's like that, that would be the most logical, choice. But it's like, who do you find for that's willing to sacrifice that much for you,
Well, yeah, well, it's really a lot of my circle. We kind of all have that kind of flexibility in your schedule. To where it's like for me, like it's like I do I don't know, probably 5 to 7 on-site practices a week. But with the coaching staff Without Limits, we can easily like pick up each other's practice if we're on vacation or something like that. And so there are a lot of kind of people in my circle that have the flexibility to be able to go around and do that kind of stuff.
Now, how is Out Without Limits been working for you? Because I mean, I think I even have a shirt that says Without Limits. Are you like you a clothing brand, everything?
Yeah, so Without Limits is a 3-part brand where they have the coaching services that I work with. There is the race directing. Excuse me. Oh, the sparkling water getting to me. The race directing where, Tom Clifford, the owner of who started the coaching and everything, he's the race director for the Wrightsville Beach Marathon, for 3 or 4 different trail events. He, partnering with the White Lake Half. So it kind of does a bunch of different races and a bunch of different spectrums. And then also apparel / nutrition brand. So they make kind of casual apparel to where, t-shirts they make.
It's comfy.
Hats,
I like it. It's comfy.
things like that. Oh yeah, it's super, super soft stuff. But then there's also vitamin and protein shakes that they do.
I mean, is this pretty successful? Because like that shirt I got it with Beach to Battleship, and it's like one of the most comfortable shirts I got. It's I got that in 2015, so it's held up pretty well.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. So for a while there, Without Limits was doing all the race apparel for setup events. But that's one of the things that I feel like that's kind of the niche that the Without Limits apparel brand has found is kind of being able to do race shirts or like pajama pants, for finishers and things like that. So that's been kind of a cool little thing that they've done.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot I had those pants. The beach to battleship ones. Those are awesome.
Oh yeah, they are. I wear mine, probably 3 or 4 nights a week sleeping.
They're bright orange. They're awesome. I love them.
Yep.
So, I mean, with coaching, how many people do you have working with you? I mean, obviously, you've only been into this, 5 years? And how is it like, how do you work that into your schedule that well? Because obviously, you got your hands, you're kind of more of an entrepreneur than anything. You got your hands in a little bit of everything to kind of, create your income. How is it all meshed together?
Well, yeah. So with the coaching side of things, actually, before I even started triathlon, I was a full-time just running coach. So let's see, that I've probably been a full-time coach for about 7 or so years now. And it was back at the end of 2015, I had an Achilles surgery, and that's what got me into triathlon. I gained about 20 pounds because I had to take, 6 to 8 months off of training, pre and post surgery. And then and then I got on the bike because I was like, I can't run, the way I want to run with this type of weight on my stomach. So I started cycling, lost a little bit of, to gain a little bit of weight, got some running back. And then I spent 2 years of kind of like, okay, I'll do triathlon when it's triathlon season, but then I'm going to, train for marathons over the winter, because that's kind of always where my heart really was, because my background as a runner, running in high school and college. But to kind of go into the coaching side of things, I do 3 kind of standard. I do 3 early morning practices, about 5:30 to 7-ish in the morning, and then 2 youth practices in the evening, from 6 to 7 p.m. And then every now and then, if I'm subbing in for another coach or something like that, I'll do on-site stuff. But I fluctuate in between 20 and 30 athletes on Training Peaks, where I detail their day-to-day schedules and, communication and, doing phone calls and, making sure everything's good with that. But so I kind of base that there. And then, most of my swims are done, at the YMCA, where they have the childcare, where I can take my 3-year-old when the 6-year-old's in school. And, and then the days that I have the kids, I'll cycle on the trainer. And then I kind of couple some runs, like, maybe 20, 30 minutes before a practice or after a practice. And then, over the weekend, I'll get a babysitter for the long runs or long rides, stuff like that.
So you're the one who has custody of your kids, right?
Well, it's a little bit of a joint, but it's because we didn't have the courts decide it. So it's a little bit more free flowing, but I tend to find them. I have, anywhere from 4 to 6 days a week, I'll have the kids.
Okay. I mean, I guess it's very good that you have childcare with it, because I would imagine, that would kind of put a damper on a lot of things. And also you would be living on Zwift for one thing, right?
Yeah. Well, so I'll put it this way. It's kind of, there's always time for your priorities. The kids come first, definitely, when it comes to my training and whatnot, but it is something too that I want them to be able to, see me going after my goals and, see me kind of pursue my passions, because, kids, they'll do what you say as long as you're doing what you say as well. Whereas if you say something and do something differently, they're going to do what you do. If that makes sense.
I mean, they're like a wad of fucking clay half the time, where you can just make them whatever you want them to be.
I would say yes and no. It's definitely the nurture versus nature type thing. Kids have their own personalities and their own quirks or stuff that's just, innate in them. But then there's also, the things that, they are going to model the behaviors they see.
I don't know how old your kids are, but are they kind of taking the same interest in kind of swimming, biking, or running?
Oh, well, no, they're not quite that old yet. Where Eden is 6 years old. She's in kindergarten. She'll go out there and run half a mile here and there, as she wants. But she's really kind of into gymnastics or drawing and stuff like that, which is all good. I really just want the kids to be able to, find what their passion is and be able to do that. If it's swim, bike, or run, that's awesome. If not, that's awesome too.
Oh, they're that young. Okay.
Yeah. They're pretty young.
Okay. So what do you want to do? I mean, what is your overall goals for this year? with those fulls? Like, do you have a specific kind of time in mind that you want to kind of achieve, or do you just kind of want to work your way up the field in in your overall finishes?
Yeah, well, so it's a little bit. I haven't gotten quite there because a lot of it's going to come down to consistency and training. Because as we've already touched on a little bit, I tend to be a little bit lower volume guy just because of everything that I have going on. And so a lot of it will come down to how consistent can I be in my training. But overall, with Mont Tremblant, with Lake Placid, and Patagon Man being all pretty challenging courses, it's going to be a lot less time focused and a lot more just trying to feel like I have a good race and accomplish what I needed to do in the moment.
Have you booked your flight for Patagon yet, man? Yet? Because it's probably going to cost, I guess, my guess would be as much as Brazil would.
Yeah, no, I have not booked it yet, but that's in the works.
So now White Lake, it used to be a fall and spring race. Are you keeping a pro-am like that the same way, or are you only running it in the spring?
No, so in the spring is the only time the pro-am is. In the fall, they had actually last year they did a full relay to where it's like there were only relay events, and they were kind of actually tiered off to where the bike went off first, and then it was the marathon, and then it was the swim. But it was basically based off projections of how long it took to finish things. And so that was the Saturday, and then the Sunday they had an Olympic and sprint as well. But I wasn't involved like with any of the race directing or anything of that in that event.
Okay. So the last thing I wanted to ask you before we get you out on here is, what has your experience been like with Varlo and being kind of that team atmosphere, and what benefits has it provided to you and your career?
Yeah, I mean, it's been an awesome thing. Like if you just, I love the way you put it, just starting off with team atmosphere, because that's really what it is. Just having people around you to feel like they support and care what you're doing, as well as, you can support and care about, other people. And it's not just because while triathlon is an individual sport, while you're out there on the course racing, being a part of a community or another community really, really helps to feel like, you have people paying attention to your races, people that care about what you're doing as you're out there. Just kind of gives you that extra little bit of push, knowing that in the back of your head on race course. But then things like this weekend that I just had at what was called Barlow Live in Boulder, it was a chance for everyone to get together. I think we had about 23 people show up to the weekend, and we just kind of did some casual rides, casual runs, had a group swim, and then all met for dinner. We did a scavenger hunt, but it was just really just a big social thing that was just fun to do and meet people and hear their stories and all that.
Do you all do races together, or do you have any ability to train with them, or do you kind of travel as a crew too?
Well, so in terms of travel, not quite as much, but so I guess there's a little bit different stuff. So there's Team Varlo, which is the amateur team, that was a lot of this, but then is what I find like a lot of times, like if I'm at a race that another Varlo pro is at, like you get an Airbnb together, things like that. So it's a little formal type thing, but it kind of gives you a little community in the pro field of certain sponsored athletes. You get to know them a little bit more. But Varlo does do certain team events like the Clash Miami this year was the first big team event that we had, to where there was a good showing there and everyone kind of pushed it and went out and raced.
Has being a part of of Varlo and working with them, has that kind of brought attention to other potential sponsors for you to pick up, or has that not quite came to fruition?
Well, not quite yet. But so it's one of those things where I'm still, I very much, I'm a developing pro. So I'm not one of those guys that's out there, trying to win a race or get a podium yet. Emphasis on yet. I do think that I have the ability to get there. But it's one of those things to where it really, in my opinion, it takes 1 or 2 years for, of a company taking a chance on you like Varlo did for me. And then I hope that it will develop because it's like, oh, Varlo saw something in me. So, this swim company, is like, oh, well, maybe he does have something, or this bike company, or whatever it is to that.
That's fantastic, man. Well, hey, man, I appreciate you joining me. It's been great. I'll probably be out at White Lake maybe in the future because it was a great early season race for me, and
Yeah.
I actually stayed in Florence, South Carolina with my friend instead of getting the hotels weren't particularly close, and I'm like, well, I'll just, it was a 90-minute drive that morning, which wasn't bad. It just meant it was like getting up that early for an Ironman, It was like, oh, I'm up at 3 a.m. So it worked out.
Well, one of the cool things too, I don't know if you saw this, but there's the place called the Goldston's Beach, but they call it the Regal at Goldston's. There's 3 different hotels on site that I actually stayed at one of them. So I woke up and I could literally walk to transition in less than 30 seconds from my hotel room.
Yeah, the only thing is when I tried to sign up for those, it said you had a minimum of 3-night stay. It's like, well, I don't really want to stay here for 3 nights.
Oh God, well yeah. So I luckily I was able to be able to hook that up through something like the race involvement. So I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, but it is what it is. The way it worked out, so I was happy.
Cool. Yeah. Well, we appreciate you coming there.
Yeah. So thanks again, man. Take it easy and enjoy Boulder, and good luck with the season. I'll have to follow along your journey with Patagon, man, because I have yet to meet someone who's personally done it, and I definitely want to know more how their story went, because if I can find someone to be my Sherpa, I would definitely do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, for sure. Well, maybe we can do a little follow-up in December after the race.
Perfect, man. Take it easy.
All right, you have a good one.